In today's LEGO City update, I'm going to complete the upper section of the city with 2 new buildings, including the police station and of course fitting to the police station 2 police cars as well. These are the parking lots for the police cars I'm going to build as soon as I finish the building. But for now, I'd say let's start in the left corner right there with the first residential building of today's video. It took me an entire day to finish the outer design work of the building, and since I'm of course going to light up the building in future, it is absolutely necessary to have a full interior, because as soon as I install lights on the inside, you can also see what it looks like from the outside as well. And therefore, I've added this curved staircase in the corner right there, the kitchen around the corner, and this wall segment right there is not only to separate the kitchen from the rest of the building, but also to connect the staircase and hold everything in place, because otherwise it would have been a bit too unstable, to be honest with you. Few pictures up on the wall, and then we can continue on the next floor with a giant bed right there in the middle of the room, a nightstand, and then in front where you can also see the smaller tiling on the ground, this is then our small bathroom. This is how the 2 floors connect with each other via this small staircase coming out of the corner right there. And with that, it's already time to add the first building we've completed right there into this rectangle I've prepared beforehand with flat tiles, because it's then easier to remove the building should I decide to switch things up in future. A little tree in the corner right there. And with that, it's already time to focus on the main building of today's video, the police station. This is a building I've originally designed over 3 years ago, but I've never implemented that into the city, and now I've completely reworked it, switched up the interior. Right there you can, for example, see the small jail cell on the side of the building. It of course isn't too cozy, but I mean, it's a jail cell, so it honestly shouldn't be. And this is what the outer facade of the building now looks like. Really fits well into that corner right there. Building technique wise, I've decided to add these half circles on the outside in order to represent pillars running up the entire facade. Once again, of course, the 2 floors are connected via staircase on the inside, another tree to add a bit of greenery on the outside, and now it's time to build the police car. Although I'll say that right off the bat, I'm not too sure if I'm going to leave it like that. At the moment, I've decided to use the color scheme of the old German police cars, which was a mixture of white and green. And my initial thought was that this might fit best to the overall time the city is built in, but honestly, I think I'm going to exchange everything that's green in this car with dark blue, so it's a bit more modern in the end. But with the basic shape and design of the car, I'm so far quite satisfied. I've also really spent time on developing new weird building techniques. For example, right there you can see me use these 1x1 plate modifieds underneath the car in order to turn around the studs, and then add this half circle in order to add more details. And then I've covered everything up with flat tiles, so you don't see all these illegal building techniques when looking underneath the car. I'll of course have to design a second police car as well in future, but for now, since the area is still a bit empty, I'd say it's time to add a bit of life and action, and therefore, first of all, I'm adding jumper plates in order to then have studs, and now I'm placing as many policemen as possible on the outside. They are currently rushing to their next operation, and of course they still need more cars in order to then actually drive to the crime scene, but immediately this corner looks so much better than before, which means we can now continue on the lower platform of the city, where we still have to finish off the tram tracks with the end station, at least for now the end station. I'll show you at the end of the video that I'm planning on continuing the entire section in future as well, but for now this is where the city temporarily ends, and I'm over the next months going to continue building on the other side of the city. As always, the most important things are the details, minifigures, and for example right there a small rat eating food that got dropped on the floor. And since we now have finished the tram, it's time to take a ride, and for the first time you can see what the POV now looks like should you ride the tram along the harbor right there. Absolutely beautiful scenery, and this is then also long term the goal of the level of detail I want to add for the entire city. Having now reached that corner, it's time to work on the day-night mode. And for that, we first of all have to work on the interior of the seafood restaurant. At least that was my goal initially, to have this building as a seafood restaurant, but then I started building the kitchen and it turned more into a sort of bar, and honestly I'm quite satisfied with that. For example, right there, this right there is the beer with the foam on top, and then since this area started to look super cozy, I decided I might as well add more beverages as well, and therefore in the back you have whiskey and all different other types of liquor, and of course the barkeeper has to be added as well. There you can see how the cables are run down underneath the platform of the LEGO City. I'll also show you what the city currently looks like from beneath. As always, I know this hurts quite a few of you, but it has to be done in order to light the city up and hide all the cables. Sometimes I have to drill holes inside, and this is what this building now looks like at night. I think it's absolutely worth it once you see what everything looks like at night. For example, right there, this is another thing I had to do. I had to add these additional roofs in between because otherwise the light would have come out of the sides of that part of the roof. So that just shows you how time consuming lighting up the entire city is, but I think it's absolutely worth it. And this isn't the only section I've worked on when it comes to lighting up the city. I've also worked on the small rental boat shop right there in front. One LED was more than enough to have that lit up because of the size of the building. And then another building I decided to light up is the end station of the tram line. And once again, there you can see what has to be done in order to light everything up. I of course always try to keep the amount of holes I have to drill in order to run cables down underneath the Lego City as minimal as possible, but sometimes it has to be done, and the end result is always stunning. And since I was just showing you what the progress of lighting up the city looks like, every single street lantern is placed on a 2x2 jumper plate, which first of all allows me to have the cable run down in the center, but also it's so much easier to remove it should the LED not function at some point and we need to exchange certain street lanterns. And now what we also do is we place every single building on these tiled squares or rectangles, whatever you want to call them. And this then of course allows me to easily remove the building, which then means lighting up everything and repairing certain things is much easier than before. For that section up there I've completed during today's update. I'm of course going to show you a before and after picture towards the end of the video. Down here, this is another section I wanted to focus on because I've mentioned during the video that this is only going to be the temporary end of the tram line. In future, I'm extending the city towards this section, and then of course the tram is also going to be extended. By the way, underneath the bridge, this is the only space of this corner of the city that's still empty with the studs we need to cover up with more details. Which then on the other side means that I'm going to continue at this end of the Lego City where we still have this giant empty space right here. And for this area, I've now finally received the next Pick a Brick order I've placed over a month ago. It took ages this time. But in this case, we have beautiful new pieces for, you might have guessed it already, the giant grain field I'm going to extend in this entire area in front of the train tracks. And then during the next videos in the Lego City, I'm going to start with the giant mountain right here. Or it's more sort of a hill, I guess. The mountain is back there, which still isn't finished, but on top of this hill, that's going to cover up the train tracks right there. Then we'll have a giant castle on top. And then more good news before I'll start building the castle. Since we've now finished back there in this corner, the Wild West mock, we still need a new project to replace that. Keep that in mind. The next days should be the launch of an epic new project. And with that, I still need to show you one more thing, today's before and after picture. This is what it looked like before, and now afterwards we finally have finished the upper platform of the Lego City, which really satisfies me. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.